Hi, and welcome to CryptoBiography. I'm your host, Brandon Starr, and this is episode 113, entitled The Last Rule, and it's going to be part one of a longer story. And if you have any comments or questions about this episode or previous episodes, cryptobiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. And here we go. The Last Rule. In the year 1025 SK, since Korthag, which would have been 50,026 in the old calendar, I was appointed head advisor to Lord Korthag, the invincible, immortal god king of Earth, first of his name and last ruler for all time. I have now held the post for 20 years, which is a record by 17 years. I am the 503rd person to hold this title. 502 people who, as you can tell, never did my job for more than 3 years, all died in the position. Why did I take the job? Job security. I have this job until I die. It sounds like a joke, but really, when I was offered it, and saying no was not really an option, I knew that I was the right one for the job. Plus, the benefits are really top-notch. I mean, forget the pay, which is really, really high. I can't turn around without finding another program waiting to help me with some small problem. But the small problems don't bother me. The big ones do. You have to be a big-picture guy when it comes to helping out the ruler of Earth, especially when the ruler is an immortal narcissist with self-esteem issues. This is being written on quintuple safe data security, by the way. Why even take the risk? Because I have to have some way to vent my exasperation. Look, he treats people he likes well. The problem is that his opinion on people changes without notice, and usually irrevocably. And by irrevocably, I mean they end up at the bottom of a gladiator pit. So why was I offered the position? Well, let me answer it this way. Lord Korthag is over 7 feet tall, built like a Greek god, and has over his centuries learned every martial art that has ever been taught, from pancration on. I am a bit over 5 feet tall if I stand really straight up, and am, frankly, dumpy. I've never gotten in a fight in my life. Well, that's not quite true. I've never thrown a punch in my life. Let's leave it at that. So, let's say I'm not a threat to him physically in any way, at all. Given that, and my talent for careful flattery, never done in a way to suggest mere sycophancy, I've managed to be in his presence every day for 2 decades without serious incident. Of course, there's more to it than that, much more. I'm also the power behind the throne. Every major organization on Earth is devoted to the power of my boss. But of course he can't control it all. There are layers and layers of management. And all of them now report to me, or to someone they think isn't me, but is. This took a long time, many years, but once I had that in my hand, I knew I had a chance to live something like a normal lifespan. The third leg of my power comes from my ability to delicately shade the news I bring to the last ruler. This is my true art. Giving him all the information while improving the details, making him never seem anything less than omnipotent and omniscient, was always delicate. And withholding information that he would find out later was, of course, not an option. So I have a number of tools in my bag. I am the Michelangelo of mendacity. But I have a problem. It just happened last night. One of my more important, yet rarely seen, contacts got a hold of me through the carefully set-up channels. He was from Angu. That is so far in the middle of nowhere that it has no right to consider itself being anywhere at all. The man contacting me is the wealthiest man in town, due entirely to my paying him to be my eyes and ears. The man, other than being a conduit of information for me, was entirely unimportant. He was an insurance contract. I occasionally sent a false alarm his way without his knowing, just so I could make sure that he would behave exactly as I needed him to. This was not a false alarm. Some distance from Amgu was Vault 414. Vault 414 was so well hidden that it did not even have guards in the traditional sense, because that would draw attention to it. It had been wiped from the maps, from the history books. The people who had built it had been killed to keep the secret, and that was centuries ago. Of course, I knew about it, and so did my contact. And of course, so did Lord Korthag. It was his vault. It contained... well, in some ways I don't exactly know what it contained. But in essence, it contained his immortality. That much I know. So, Lord Korthag is naturally protective of it. There are spy cameras, which I have known about for a long time, which watch the vault all day, every day. And every day a report is sent directly to Lord Korthag, which always says, in essence, no change. The spy camera's output is monitored by people who do not know what they are watching, nor where it is. They are comfortably seated in the capital, half a world away. I have enough knowledge of the systems to say that it would be most difficult for anyone to trace the data back to the cameras and thus learn the location of Vault 414. Plus, even the vault's exterior was disguised. The cameras only showed what looked like empty fields. Those who monitor the cameras are well paid to overcome the extreme boredom that comes from watching a picture of something that looks like an empty field all day, every day. The automation, warnings, heuristic change algorithms, and so on, helps prevent slack, but I still have a certain amount of empathy for them. This vault, this so well-hidden vault that only a few people knew about at all, could never be breached. It would be unthinkable. It would be a catastrophe. For me. And it had been. My contact was quite insistent over the call. Yes, he was quite sure it had been breached. No, he didn't know how the surveillance report showed that there was no change. But in this case, Lord Korthag would not know, not for some time, what had happened at his precious vault. And he must not ever know that I found out about it first. Withholding that information, even knowing about the vault's actual location, let alone knowing its terrible secret, any of that would mean instant death. But I couldn't let the vault's exposure and presumed plundering go unanswered, either. And that's where the story ends this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, this story is going to continue. If you have any comments or questions about this episode or previous episodes, CryptoBiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. And thanks for listening. Words and music, copyright 2019, CryptoBiography LLC, all rights reserved. People and events are fictional, fictionalized, or satirical.